Hello, powerful one. Welcome to this edition of Inner Growth to Osezuah Elimihe. You are a sinner, aren't you? Of course, the right to call you a sinner makes me a sinner. And the other person that is listening to it and agreeing to the fact that you are a sinner also makes the person a sinner. The right for the other person to eat that it is good to label you a sinner also makes that person a sinner. So all of us, the accuser, the accused, and the listener are all sinners, right? Maybe not. What makes us sinners? Well, the right to admit is the right to be. What does it really amount to? The right to admit. If you admit that you are a sinner, then you become a sinner. You see, whatever you admit as truth becomes your private truth. And that private truth may not necessarily be the universal truth. In other words, you might have an opinion about yourself that is not held by everyone else, including the source. But because you hold that truth, it is true to you, and the universe responds to you in like manner. But that law does not cancel out the universal image. It's just that in your own space, that truth becomes relevant. It becomes real because the law of the owner of a universe is supreme in that universe, and your truth is the law of your private universe. Well, we go into this when we come back from this break. I am Osezuah Anthony Elimihe. You know me. I am in the game of helping you grow from inside out. That is the drill. You're welcome back. So what is this right to admit? Everybody on this planet has a right to admit anything. Anybody can come up with any postulation, and anybody has a right to accept the postulation or reject it. The freedom of existence is that nobody should be prevented from any belief, because the belief will work for the person according to the level, to the limit in which the person accepts the belief. Now we have a plethora of scriptures that tells us that all we like sheep have gone astray, which is very correct, and that we are all sinners and have come short of the glory of God. Yes, that in us dwells no good. No, that the imagination of our hearts is evil continually. Not at all. Now, what is all this all about? These are all human interpretations of universal thoughts that have become laws in the lives of so many people. People have not learned the skills of responding to opinions. You can call them sacred opinions if you like, because they are opinions held by people around core values of humanity, so they are sacred. Anybody can come up with any understanding based on the person's state of being. Remember this thing, that we all do not see the same object the same way. We always visit our backgrounds, our experiences upon the things we look at. Therefore, it is very, very erroneous, somehow not instructive for anybody to take what has been written, what has been recorded by others as absolute truth and see it as sacred scriptures. I'm not saying you should disrespect scriptures. Respect them, because great thoughts, great time, and great experiences are standing behind these things. But should the experiences of people become your own experience? Should it rule your life? If you take facts that are based on another's experience to the fullest, you will begin to live the experience of the person. But you are supposed to be an independent entity, a sentient being. You were to create your own experiences. You were to create your own realities. Why are you dependent on what others have experienced? It doesn't matter whether they are prophets, kings, or priests, because it doesn't make them better than you are. Because the reason they are not better than you are is that in them, in you, reside the true word of God. In him was life, and the life was the light of men, and that light shines in the darkness of our ignorance, and the darkness of our ignorance cannot understand it. Until we step down on our ignorance and make it dormant before the light will not penetrate it. As long as we try to interpret the light, we will lose the essence of the light. You are to stand before the light of the word, silent, motionless, thoughtless, so that it can penetrate you and transform you by itself. But what we do is that when we see the light, we put a lot of filters in front of it. And these filters are the filters of our experiences, filters of commentaries, trying to make some sense out of it. And remember, you are using your 5 senses that are outwardly bound. So you are going to be using your outward experiences of life to now determine the inward realities that are before you. It will not work. No human being is a sinner. Not one. Not even the murderer, not the bank robber, not the political thieves. We are not sinners. We have the capacity to let sin reign in us. Doesn't make us sinners. It is when we slip off and then the law of sin and death will find its way into us and begin to function fully. Paul said, I know that in me, that is my flesh, this physical body, dwelleth no good. The good he was talking about is that which is eternal, that which is not subject to rot and decay. Nothing like that dwells in this body. But you see, within this same body, we are made to understand that the Almighty reside. Within this same body, we also have the universal mind resident. Therefore, how useless is your body after all? So, you need to understand that your life is a precious one, that every life that you see is sacred, because in that life dwells the altar of the Supreme. That is the temple. As you are looking at it, is the temple of the Supreme One. In this earthen vessel, this earth-bound, subject to decay vessel, dwells the eternal. And you, being an offshoot of that eternity, are also an eternal being, carrying this house about, but always thinking that this house is you. It is the mental malady that happens to a human being who is driving in a car and concludes that the car is it. So that when somebody hits the car, the person comes in and says, he hit me from my back. You are not the one that has been hit, it's your car, your vehicle. But you and your vehicle actually become one. That is that malaise, that malady that is affecting all of us, thinking that this body, the mind that is loaded with negative data and commit all the atrocious acts that are ascribed to us are us. We are not the ones. Our only fault in all of these is that we were not conscious enough. We were too drugged by mind, matter, and illusion to be able to be on guard, to keep mind from doing things that are not right. So the power of just discrimination, we lost it to the drug of religion, to the drug of the social construct, and we appear to be sinners, and we admitted it. The moment we admit that we are sinners, our sinfulness remains, and the impact of sin begin to hammer at us. Like Christ would say, be it unto you according to your faith. So you'll be asking me, what are you trying to say? That I am not a sinner of all the things I have done? The I you are talking about is the ego that did all these things. The false personality. It isn't you. You are buried somewhere in the debris of all of these experiences. It takes the light of life to reach you and activate you and bring you back into existence. But as far as that has not happened, you are living in that place drugged out while the aliens in your system are functioning. You are nowhere near a sinner. Not at all. You are like the owner of a house who has been drugged by the occupants of the house so that they might carry out their nefarious activities. While the owner of the house is drugged out, then those people went around and committed all the act, and then the law enforcement agent comes around and says, Mr. Man, look at actions carried out in your house. You said, I'm very sorry. I didn't know when I did it. I am not aware. I shouldn't have done. I know it's a very bad thing. Your admittance cannot remove punishment from you. I would love you to study the book of Romans very well and come back to me and still tell me that you are a sinner. Then I will be tempted to try another route on you. You are not a sinner. If you read any scripture that tells you you are a sinner, that tries to convict you of sin, reject it. Like they say, jump and pass. That is not you. They are not describing you. You are more than that. You are superior to sin. Because in that same book, like the Bible, it is said, one that is born of God does not sin. That person cannot sin because the seed of God is in that person. You cannot. You are not capable of sinning. Mind in you is capable of sinning because when you load mind with sinful data, mind sins. Why don't you be like mind? Mind says, I can never err. I can never do evil. It's not possible for me to err or do evil. But if you give me data that is sinful, then the error you see in me are the errors of the data, not of me. The same way, the human being cannot sin. The human being sins to the extent of the mind that functions in that human being. If the human mind is focused on sinning, then the human being becomes sinful to the extent of the sinfulness of the mind. So it's a matter of perspective. If you now begin to perceive the mind as the human being, then the human being is a sinner. If you begin to perceive the senses as the human being, then the human being is a sinner. But if you come to the understanding that the human being is not the senses, that the human being is not the mind, therefore the human being is clean, is absolved of all sins. Some said Christ came to die for the sins of the world. Well, it is your right to admit. But all I know is that Christ came and died because he gave humanity the key to rise above sinfulness. And the world wasn't happy about it and they killed him. Because human beings had admitted sinfulness, they have admitted so much sins, so many sins in their lives, and because the impact had to be visited upon them, those of them who received him as the Lord, he took the consequences of those sins upon himself. That is why humans were able to take him to the cross and nail him. If he had not assumed the sins of people, they couldn't have touched him by a mile. So my friend, you are not a sinner. Stop admitting what you have not committed. Wake up to the reality of your existence. You are above sin. Let nobody cajole you into accepting what isn't. You can't sin because the seed of God is in you. And you are the seed of life. You are the microcosm of the macrocosm. The Almighty, the source, the divine architect of the entire universe cannot sin. And he cannot behold sin. And you are the Almighty's offshoot. Where is your sinfulness coming from? A lion begets a lion, a dog begets a dog, a goat begets a goat. How did you become a goat when your father is the lion? Well, ponder these things and see if you can recover yourself from the errors that you have admitted. Thank you.